Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Dr. Ivaylo Nedyalkov, Marcus Herold, Seth Chartier, Philip Mather, and Ethan Tillinghast from the University of New Hampshire. They're all associated with a recent groundbreaking senior project that consisted of conceiving, designing, building, and then flying an ultralight electric aircraft, all within the span of one academic year. Ivo is a senior lecturer in mechanical engineering at UNH, and he also serves as a faculty advisor for engineering students Marcus, Seth, Philip, and Ethan. Student Brian Viscido and Zachary Yeaton were also members of this incredible team. During the program, learning why and how the ultralight aircraft project came about and all that transpired during the year-long undertaking. Let's start by meeting our guest. Welcome. So delighted you're all able to be here.
Thank you for having us.
First of all, just congratulations on this outstanding achievement. I mean, sort of groundbreaking effort for seniors to pull this off. So eager to hear about it and have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be of interest if each of you just very briefly share a little bit more about your background, perhaps academic, professional interest. Ivo, would you please start?
Yes, thanks for having us again. My name is Ivo. I'm originally from Bulgaria, where I did my undergraduate degree. I did my master's in Sweden, and then I did my PhD at the University of New Hampshire, and I liked it so much I ended up staying teaching there, and I've been in the department for about 10 years now as a faculty member, and I also serve as the undergraduate program coordinator.
Terrific, terrific. Seth, a few words about yourself, please.
Yes, yes, thank you for having us. So yeah, my name is Seth Chartier. I'm from Nottingham, New Hampshire, and I just finished my bachelor's degree of mechanical engineering at the University of New Hampshire, and I'm currently on track to pursue a master's degree at UNH studying solid mechanics.
Wonderful. Philip, welcome. A few words about yourself.
Yeah, I'm also a New Hampshire resident. I was brought up in a small town, Grafton, where I was homeschooled all the way up through high school, and then attended UNH, where I got my just finished my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, like the rest of the students. And now I'm starting my master's, also focusing mechanical engineering, with an emphasis on like fluids and heat transfer type aspects. I want to go into hopefully aerospace or something with a lot of flow and interesting math.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ethan, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us. I'm Ethan Tillinghast. I'm from Greenwood Lake, New York, and I just finished my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering also at UNH. Hopefully go into some sort of aerospace or sports field and use the engineering expertise there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Marcus, welcome.
All right, thanks again. So I'm Marcus Herold, and like the rest of our team, just got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I've always had an interest in aviation, so I've been building remote control airplanes for a long time, and this was just the next step, I guess. And I was glad we got such an awesome team together. And like Philip and Seth, I'm also pursuing my master's degree at UNH, and similar to Philip, probably will be focusing on fluids and that sort of thing. Not for the math, though.
Okay, thank you. Ivo, what was your initial reaction when the students proposed building a fully electric ultralight aircraft from scratch in just 1 year?
Yeah, that's quite a story. I knew Marcus, I believe, from the electric vehicle organization, which I advised at the university here, and I already knew about his other projects. He's built a few electric bikes, drones, a wing for his car. So I already knew he had quite a lot of potential, and I knew we also have a lot of other very talented students. So I was encouraging him to think big for his senior project, and he did think big, and he brought up, oh, what if we do an aircraft? And I thought, well, that may work. Let's think about it more. So I have a lot. I had a lot of confidence in him and also the other students that something like that is possible, and it was just a matter of looking at the details.
Mhm. What was your role throughout the process, from the initial proposal to the final flight? How did you balance, say, the guidance and allowing the students to lead the way?
I felt a little bit like a cheerleader for the team in a way. Um, I think the students had a lot of drive and they were really driving the project. And I thought of my responsibility as making sure that everything's working okay. One of the important aspects that I think was trying to emphasize is making sure that we're all good in terms of legal aspects, that we've contacted UNH Legal, making sure that they're okay with that, asking the students to make sure that we're good to fly, that we have a location, and just prioritizing these items, which I was expecting to take a bit longer, and then just providing some feedback occasionally. I think the students may speak more. I think for me it was important to just make sure that this is safe, that nobody's getting hurt, that nothing's breaking ideally, unless it's supposed to, and that everybody's doing well, and that the team makes the project and the designated time.
Terrific, terrific. Marcus, what inspired you to pursue such an ambitious project for senior capstone?
So that's a great question. Like I mentioned, I've always been interested in aviation, and I've built some very large remote control airplanes before. Maybe big enough you could fit a small animal on them, and that sort of thing. And I realized that a lot of the same hobby grade equipment is actually quite capable, and you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars to get a similar amount of performance that you would need for something of this size. And after kind of like specking it out and realizing that it was completely feasible to do this under 5 figures, that really made it sound a lot more attainable. And I've always been very interested in the idea of having a holistic view of a project rather than a lot of there's some very impressive student projects that occur at UNH, like the FSAE team that build a race car. But I didn't like the idea of being stuck with one component. I kind of wanted to oversee the entire design, build, and testing of all of the components and helping integrate them together. That's what really drove my interest. And that was a large reason for wanting something new that didn't really exist yet at the university. And I was kind of hungry for that. But ultimately, it was the love of aviation. I'm actually an ultralight pilot myself, so I fly paramotor, paraglider. You can kind of see on my shirt, a little paraglider wing. But I've always enjoyed that, and luckily got a group of people together who shared a similar interest and were ready to hit the ground running. So.
And then off the ground. How did you divide the different roles and responsibilities across the team?
So, we had about 10 people who were kind of in the loop with the initial conceptualization of this project and getting the details figured out later, just like what kind of plane are we going to build? How big is it going to be? How are we going to spec these different components that we need? And eventually I started to kind of hone in on what people were interested in. Seth was probably one of those easier people. He very much enjoyed, SolidWorks and trial and error on the computer and doing those kinds of simulations with solid mechanics stuff. So it's very fitting for what he wants to do with his master's. And then Philip showed extreme interest in, he also mentioned he had some experience building truss structures for roofs and stuff like that. So I figured that would be perfect for building the empennage, the tail structure that is constructed out of wood. And so we kind of just went like that. And initially we were all working together. And as people expressed interest in those specific regions, we were able to divide it into sort of frame and power system, empennage, and then landing gear. And then we all kind of came back together towards the end to integrate everything and build the wings and add all of the little like finishing details on the plane.
Okay, I'm going to ask a few of you from your viewpoint, Philip, what components were the most difficult to manufacture and assemble, and how did you solve those challenges?
I think one of the hardest ones that come to my mind is the wing, just because it had to have a very, specific shape whilst being very lightweight. And it's pretty big. I mean, we had like a 30-foot wingspan. So that was quite a large, structure. We ended up solving it similar to how Marcus built his, remote control style planes. We built a quarter scale model, and we built the wings almost the same way for that, just kind of scaled it up, which is we took giant chalk blocks of foam and a big hot wire cutter that we used to cut out the foam, and we laser cut little guides to kind of guide the hot wire cutter around. We had to cut out a bunch of 16-inch sections of the wing. I think we had 10 or something per each wing, so just a ton of time cutting out foam blocks, cutting out the middle, and then we had to glue it all together, get spars inside, coat it with fiberglass. A lot of work went into that. So I think that's probably one of the more challenging ones, and also one of the more interesting. Making foam wings is a fairly unique process and not too common on full-size aircraft.
Seth, could you share a little bit more of the iterative process that went into the design and construction? How many times, I think, hearing from lots of inventors, innovators, that's such a key part of the whole process.
Sure. Yeah. I think one of the main things that we did was we would design something in SolidWorks, and usually that would start with maybe a quick sketch on paper, and then we would go on the computer and model it up in more detail. And once everything looked pretty good, like from the eye, we would run a simulation called finite element analysis, where we basically predict what sort of loading the part would experience and the different ways it was fixed in space. And then we would run that simulation, and then we could kind of gather all the information. Okay, like, is this going to break? Is it safe? How much does it deflect? So we ran quite a lot of simulations with different parts of the plane. Like, I ran a lot of simulations with the landing gear system, and also the nose gear, different parts of like where the wings would connect to the plane, the wing mounts. So usually it would be a process, like you would come up with a design, run a simulation, and 99% of the time the first simulation wouldn't come out the way you'd want it to. So you'd have to go back and maybe add some more material in a specific section. And sometimes that would be a process of maybe, doing that 2 or 3 times. And then other times it would be, weeks of going through all these simulations and then realizing that your design isn't very good and you have to change it. So that happened, I think, two or three times with the landing gear. I had to change my design, or sometimes you'd come up with something that was strong enough, but it would be too heavy. So you'd have to go back to the drawing board and brainstorm our ideas as a team. So yeah, that's typically what the iterative process looked like for designing parts of the aircraft.
Ethan, speaking of the weight, how did you, the team, manage the strict weight limit while ensuring the plane remains safe and airworthy? I know you were deciding electric, maybe gas, but when electric, how did you manage the whole strict weight limit?
Yeah, so the weight was actually quite a problem because we're using electric power. It's about twice as heavy for the same power as a gas would be. And we also had a steel frame, which wasn't ideal either, but we chose steel for some of its strength purposes and workability, and also its cost. So both of those things were not working in our favor. So we kind of had to try and make everything like as bare and bones as possible, but while listening to the FEA models, and we actually ran tests in real life to test and verify the FEA models. So we did a test on our gussets, which were the strength of the empennage, and found that we were actually having stronger results in real life than we were online, that was great. So we kind of just balanced and checked every single thing we did and kept everything as bare and bones as possible. And if we had to beef it up slightly, we'd beef it up a slight bit and see what happened. And then if we had to go more, then we had to go more. And if we went too much, all right, let's bring it back down a little bit, and just kind of slowly, iteratively brought into the weight that we got, which luckily was under the legal limit. So.
Okay, thank you. Ivo, were there any major moments when you questioned whether the team could pull this off?
I would say no, not really. My main concerns were more about logistics and whether we'll have approval on time and whether we'll have a place to fly the aircraft. And that was a little bit close, but everybody stepped in. The dean was making sure that we have a payment for insurance in the last minute. So everybody pitched in to make sure that this is on time. A lot of people were supporting this project. People from the university, a lot of staff. So thanks to them, I think everything was done in the time frame that we were looking for and not delayed. And as far as the engineering aspects, I don't think I was questioning the success. There were a couple of times when things were a little bit tight. We were a little bit low on power at some point, but that issue got addressed. The weight limit was a concern at another point, but Seth had to step in there and iterate on the landing gear, come up with a lighter version, which worked really well. So I think the team was able to take care of all the challenges. So I felt rather confident.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're fortunate to have a terrific video clip of the aircraft taking off, being flown by Zach Yeaton, a junior going to be a senior this coming year at UNH. So let's enjoy the clip and then we'll continue our conversation.
We've been working on building this electric ultralight for 12 months or more, and today we're going to try to fly it.
First test flight for this electric ultralight that the engineering crew's been working really hard on.
We're planning on doing some preliminary checks, making sure that everything's perfect. The entire team is going to check the entire aircraft.
I'll wait for you guys to be in position and whatnot, so.
Check controls.
Full nose down.
All right, cool. Right around there.
Okay,
and then,
give left rudder.
And then once that check's done, they're going to taxi, make sure that everything's good in dynamics perspectives.
we got some traffic inbound, so we're gonna wait for that.
All right, copy. Over.
Speed up, take off, and controlled landing.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, everything looks good, Zach, so.
All right, so I guess I'll just head down now then.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'm gonna head down. Are you guys all good?
All right, heads up, clear prop, guys.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Safe flight.
Thanks, dude. Brakes released. I'm moving.
Put her down nice and soft, buddy.
No promises.
The plane should take off around 38 miles per hour, give or take, but the wind can change it a little bit. There's been a lot of hard work that's gone into this, and we're excited to see it fly today. Took off right away. Honestly, the plane wanted to leap into the air. It was great. I kind of looked off to my side briefly. I saw the entire team there cheering, and
to see that like happen, it's been, you know, we've been dreaming about it for a long time. So it was kind of surreal to watch that happen.
Good work, buddy.
We did it.
We did it.
next step, I mean, hey, I'm a junior, you know, I got thinking about senior projects, you know, there's always, you know, room for improvement with something like this, and it's something I'm very much considering, maybe continue into my final year here at UNH.
Well, fantastic. Congratulations again. Just a quick word from each of you team members. right leading up to the flight, during the flight, afterwards? Just a quick word before we move on. Marcus?
Just regarding the like flight anticipation, any of that. Oh man. So yeah, I mean we'd been preparing for actually we were hoping originally to fly the aircraft about 2 weeks earlier than we did. But because of the legal approval and trying to get runway like clearance basically to be able to fly this, and getting all of our ducks in a row in that regard, it was very that made us nervous that we weren't going to be able to do it in time. So we kind of felt we had that feeling of we've only got this one shot to make this happen, and everybody did exactly what they needed to. We had a fairly large group of people, which was really we thank the people over at Skyhaven a lot to let us do that, and actually I'll try to be quick with this, but this is a great example of engineering trial and failure. When we went, this is not shown in the video, but when we tested it, the first attempt of the flight actually didn't take off because the motor wasn't making enough thrust. So we had only a limited amount of battery left. We only had about one more attempt left, and we had to try to tweak the controller to get a few extra horsepower out of the motor. And that was just enough to get it off the ground for that second flight. So it just goes to show, myself, a few other friends of mine who are really good with programming controllers and stuff like that hopped in on the spot to make those changes. And that ended up, I mean, ultimately it was, the combination of everybody's effort that made it happen. But it's, just keep fighting up to the last minute. That was really a great example of that. So
Terrific, terrific. Seth, how did the project deepen your understanding of real-world engineering beyond the classroom?
Yeah, it definitely, I learned a lot about, like, usually when you do homework and stuff like that, you just solve the problem once and then you're kind of good to go. But in the real world, I think there's a lot more sort of factors you have to think about when you're designing something. And it's not so like nice and neat as when you're just kind of doing a pre-made problem. So I think it was really good experience in kind of learning how to design something and also make it so the part will actually work, but also make it able to be manufactured easily and fit in with all the other components of the project. So there's just a good deal of learning, how to design something that's streamlined, and that can be, manufactured by the team well. And I think I also learned a lot about not giving up when you get frustrated when you're doing something. Because it's not just like a homework assignment you can just kind of halfway do and turn in. Like when you're designing something for this, like, someone else's safety is in your hands. So you have to persevere through the whole process and make sure you do it absolutely correctly, to make sure everyone that's using your product is safe.
For sure, for sure. Philip, how has this experience shaped your plans for the future?
It's a good question. I think it was really helpful to get some like actual experience working on like something. It's not quite in the aerospace industry, but definitely like related. I mean, it's an airplane. If it's not in the industry, it's just a project. It was cool to like actually get some real work on an aircraft. I had to understand, airplanes much better now. And I think it's motivated me to kind of work hard so I can get on maybe someday work on a real project like this. And then especially, I think, when I was growing up, I always wanted to work on planes, but then I learned in the real world, you usually just work on a small part of the plane. You don't get to build whole planes. But and then this was a case where I did get to build a whole plane, with help. And so I think it's motivated me to work hard. I mean, even in the real world, there are positions where someone has to oversee that. You just have to work hard to get to that position. So it's kind of motivated me to step it up and work even harder.
What an opportunity. Same question for you, Ethan. How has this experience shaped your plans for the future?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, like I always wanted to do something in sports, and that was that was my love and passion. And then we took on this project. I thought it was a cool project to get involved in, and I ended up loving it and kind of changed my mindset a little bit into potentially pursuing something in aerospace and seeing where that goes, because it was a lot of fun to build the project and work through all these problems that we had. And it was really neat that, as Philip said, that we got to build the entire project. Like everything was from us. We never had any design given to us. We never had anybody come to us and tell us this is what needs to be done. We didn't have to all split up and only work on one small section. Like we were allowed to see everything through, including the business and legal side, and that was really, really cool. And I think went a long way for all of us in developing us as future professional engineers.
For sure, for sure. Ivo, given the success of the project, could you share a little bit about the local, national, international recognition that you and the team have received?
We've had a lot of people stop by the room where the team was working on the plane. We've had some visitors, including from abroad, even from prestigious universities from Europe. And everybody who stopped by would just be impressed and take pictures and share with others. I had a chance to speak to a dean of a very prestigious aeronautical school as well. And again, everywhere we were sharing what's happening, there was a very positive reception and very supportive words. And I think here is where, I want to bring it back to the students, that they were phenomenal. They did an outstanding job. And I already mentioned about Marcus's talents early on and how Seth had to step in. Yeaton had to deal with a lot of non-engineering but very important tasks as well, in addition to the engineering tasks that we were working on. Philip had a very impressive work on simulations, flow simulations, and they actually matched very well the experimental results that we had. So this was essential and very impressive, and he's going to be doing work in that area for the next year plus. Unfortunately, Brian's not here, another outstanding student, and Zach, the pilot, and his perspective. But I think this was a great team, and I think everybody who's seen that has been impressed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in addition to the project, just the dynamics of building a successful team, this is a role model example for sure. In closing, Ivo, just a minute or so that we have left, did you learn anything personally as a professor, a mentor through this experience?
I think students teach me a lot. I feel like it's more than I teach them in some cases. And I think this is an example because everybody's so in tune with what they're working on, and they're so passionate about it. So there's always a lot of room to learn things that I probably should know, but I don't. So yes, definitely a learning experience for me, and I'm happy about all the other teams that I work with, and I hope that we'll be visiting you with another group of students in the future.
Wonderful, wonderful. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here. Been so informative. Congratulations again, and continued success with all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Also want to
Thank you.
thank those of you watching for joining us, and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.